Chương trình này được bảo trợ bởi
Family Joy, tổ ấm y tế của mọi gia đình, 714 898 0765.
Hi, welcome back to the OC Health and Education Show on Little Saigon TV. I'm your host, Julie Yip. We're going to continue the conversation with Dr. Scott Comudala, the Director for Center for Community Health. He works in public health, but more importantly, he crunches numbers and does all these great, wonderful things to help our community. He's here to talk about and continue to talk about virtual reality. Just before the commercial break, we were just talking about, or just sharing with our community, your company. Tell me again what it is and what you're hoping to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, I mentioned before 2 areas where VR is fairly well developed.
Yes.
One of them is in training. And, you know, teaching people with motor skills to get in the moment.
Yes.
Another area is pain management I mentioned. The area that we will really want to push the boundary on with Before Inc. is emotions.
Oh.
So, you know, it's one thing to control yourself physically with what you do, but actually your emotional control.
Correct.
Going into those areas. So, you know, this boundary is being pushed in other areas. One of the more entertaining ones I've heard of is Walmart. Do you realize that they are using VR to train their staff on how to deal with the holiday rush? I mean, I'm not kidding. This is real. They are doing that now. Banks are starting to use VR to train tellers on dealing with different situations. And they're doing it not just to teach them how to manage tasks.
Correct.
It's the emotions. Imagine being a Walmart worker with a rush of crazy holiday... The mob, customers, right? I don't know if there's a Walmart close by here, but I know. But so the areas we want to do too with emotional control is for kids going into surgery and medical procedures. Because one of the things for a child that's really hard is to give up loss of control. Well, you've got kids.
Yeah.
I've got an 8-year-old. We can attest to change something up on a child and see what happens, right? Yeah. All of a sudden there's a tantrum or something. They don't handle change well.
Yeah.
And so one of the things with VR, they can put on the headset, let's say they're going to have surgery, they can walk through that experience multiple times. It acclimates them. They can learn what's going to happen. They can learn, you know what, this is not fun, but I'm going to have to lay on the gurney. Someone is going to put an induction mask over my face. That's not going to be enjoyable, but you can learn to train yourself through that. And so it's kind of like you were saying with the meditation earlier.
Yes.
You know, in those types of applications, it's that emotional regulation control.
You know, for me as a speech pathologist, I see it as communication.
It is.
It's a communication device because, you know, when you talk about emotion, it's not about communication with the people around you, but it's kind of that communication with yourself. You know, so with specifically with the pandemic, you know, there's so many people that we help and we counsel. But most of the time people think that, you know, mental health realm or emotional realms are only for, you know, counselors or psychologists or psychiatrists when it gets worse. But, you know, as a speech pathologist, we work on what's called cognitive linguistic. And that's another word I want to share with you. It's really thinking about language and really how do you problem solve, organize, and, you know, just go about your day or go about the experience. So what I would think about is that, you know, when someone is going through this VR technology, you're helping them talk to themselves about, you know, what is it that I should expect? How should I respond? And what it is, it's kind of like a rehearsal, right?
Absolutely.
We can do it for wedding rehearsal. And we can do it for all of these things. You know, when we do public speaking, we rehearse. And that's what I see it to be, that it's no different than a conversational acclamation that you use, that they experience, so you can alleviate some of the anxiety, the fears, and the unknown.
Right.
So I think that's a great idea for you to bring that. And I really love the fact that you call it Before Inc. You know, because Before Inc. is really that front loading. What happens before? And how am I going to be in that situation? And how do I pull from that situation more effectively? So what do you think, Dr. Comudala?
You know, I love it. It gets back to when we first met and we worked for Dr. Sharani, the Teaching Learning Center at Loma Linda.
Yeah.
That was all about conversation.
Yes, yes.
You know, it was about, she worked with medical students, dental students, and it was preparing them for
like their MCATs and all these
MCATs,
hard
reading
tests.
faster.
Yes.
That's all about communication, reducing anxiety, communication with yourself, test taking.
So we're just going full circle?
We're going, you know what, everything comes back around. If only we could be as young as we were back then and go for full circle that way.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Comudala, for sharing that experience with the community. Thưa quý vị khán giả, hôm nay Julie có thời gian nói chuyện với Dr. Scott Comudala về virtual reality. Tại Dr. Comudala tạo được cái company là Before Inc. Before Inc. là một cái virtual reality company muốn áp dụng cái technology đây để cho giúp cộng đồng của mình về in the medical world. Scott có một đứa con 8 tuổi, đó là bé Sophie. Lúc mà bé Sophie phải đi bệnh viện á, Scott muốn tạo ra cái technology làm sao cho đứa em đây không có bị hội họp về sợ quán gì đỡ cho technology. Thì nói đó là cho nên mình có cái virtual technology, virtual reality, mình có cái experience giống như mình trong cái bệnh viện, mình bỏ cái device về trên mặt thì mấy em đây không có sợ hãi nhiều. Thì đó là rất là quan trọng. Julie với Scott hồi xưa làm cho Dr. Sharani đã trở Teaching Learning Center, một cái trung tâm mà giúp rất nhiều học sinh ở trường Loma Linda mà để cho học là thành bác sĩ là pass cái test MSAT hoặc cái LSAT để mấy cái test vân vân rất là quan trọng. Mà Scott nói đó là cái technology đây để cho giúp về cái emotional control, làm sao một người đã được chỉnh về cái cách mình hồi hộp về mình có cái experience này. Scott, you know, I think the emotional control part of it, like I said, it's a communication to ourselves. But more importantly, what you were kind of alluding to was kind of taking back that control and taking back, like, you know, how we feel. Because feeling is important. I think a lot of us don't allow us to feel all the array of emotion, whether it be anger or fear. But what the virtual reality does, it allows us to kind of have that initial fear, but also teach us how to effectively and more calmly pull from this experience. So I thank you for being able to bring this. What should we expect, and when should we expect your project to come out? Is there any teaser, any dates?
Well, I don't want to give a specific date right now,
Yes.
but I will say, you know, it's going to be happening pretty fast, and we're making great progress working with Nader and School Fab Lab and moving forward.
Well, you know, Scott, like I said, I'll always be a friend to you. If you ever need my advice or unsolicited advice, I'll always give it to you.
I'll get it anyways.
You'll get it anyways. Okay. So can you tell us about your partnership? Who are you working with? Because I know you're sharing some of these names, but I've never met those friends yet.
Right, absolutely. So, you know, I have a background in statistics. I work in public health, but but I'm not a clinician.
Okay. Yes.
So I knew I needed a partner who was in that space. So I met up with Justin Wagner, who is a young, up-and-coming, promising pediatric surgeon.
Oh.
He works at UCLA Mattel Children's Hospital, so thus the UCLA connection. That's what I love about being there. There's a lot of great connections.
Yes.
So I partnered up with him to co-found. I actually had the chance to meet Nader through another faculty member at UCLA, Nanthia Sutana, who's got her own VR lab. And she directed me towards Nader Shatirian. And I love his company because it's very community-based.
Okay.
They develop VR educational programs for kids.
Wow.
And it's focused on STEM programs. So, you know, now with STEM in schools, a lot of schools in lower income communities, they can't afford all the equipment. You know, robotics are great and all that, but what if you're in a school where they can't afford it? Well, guess what? Virtually, the kids can experience it. And so that's what his company does, but they've also done other medical applications. And so that common vision to want to help, especially kids in the community, it was just a natural formation there.
Well, it sounds like you have an amazing team together.
I do.
And I think that's very important because, you know, one of a sign of a good leader is knowing your weakness and how to bring that team together. So I'm very excited, Dr. Comudala, for you to share this information and this project ahead. After the commercial break, we're going to wrap up our show and summarize about all the great things that you're doing. Cảm ơn quý vị khán giả của Little Saigon TV. Sau phần quảng cáo, chúng tôi sẽ tiếp tục nói chuyện với Dr. Scott Comudala, Director for the Community Center. Cảm ơn quý vị.